Book review time. This review will be on Uncaged, the autobiography of Frank Shamrock. Frank Shamrock is an absolute legend and pioneer of mixed martial arts. He is a former UFC champion, WEC champion, Stirkeforce champion, and former king of Pancrase. This book, obviously being his autobiography, goes from his incredibly troubled childhood. He is very open about his drinking and drug use throughout his teens, living in the garage of his mum's house. It goes through his time in a care home as a young teenager. He was sexually abused by one of the older people at the care home when he was a teenager. It goes through his time in prison. He's very open about a lot of this stuff. He goes into quite a bit of detail about how the Lions Den was run in the original days, the Lions Den being the first real put together team of MMA. Before anybody gets in touch and loses their mind, the Gracies weren't a team that were put together, they were a family, they were born into it. The Lions Den, of course, people would come in, they'd apply, they'd go through the tryout. He goes through all of that. He goes through getting absolutely obliterated and beaten and broken by his older adopted brother Ken through the tryout. He's completely upfront about his days living in Japan and being completely alienated as a young boy in Pancrase. Before anybody gets in touch as well about my pronunciation, I know it's spelt Pancrase, but it's actually pronounced Pancrase, and the Greek sport was Pancration, not Pancration, just before anybody kicks up a stink. He's very, very, very open about how when he left the Lions Den, it wasn't a good split. This book was written and published, by the way, before he and Ken reconciled, so there is like a happy ending when it comes to the two guys getting back together and being on friendly terms, if not being the close-knit brothers that we would sort of like to imagine. They're friends, they're on friendly terms. That's good. Even though at the time this was written and published, Frank wasn't on speaking terms really with Ken. Frank is very upfront with saying that Ken was at that time the toughest physical and mental person he knew. That sounds wrong. Physically and mentally, Ken was the toughest person he knew. Not he was the physically toughest mental person he knew. He even at the end of the book when he's thanking people, he says thank you to Ken for getting me into this. So he is very open enough forward stuff. The intro, by the way, is written by Mickey Rourke. Go from there. It's a decent print. It's not massive block print. I hate when books print really large because there's not a lot to say, so they try to fill up the pages. He goes over quite a bit. There's, bear with me, 256 pages. Some of the stuff he could have gone into more detail with, but the stuff he does talk about, he goes into a lot of detail with. So, it was probably quite painful for him to write the book, to be honest. The stuff he goes over is a bit, he goes over, his family, the fact that he didn't really get to spend much time with his first child, how he's tried to make up for that with his daughter. The pictures are pretty cool. Where are we? This is possibly my favourite picture ever. It's the Phil Baroni fight where he's pulling the peace sign mid-fight because he's Frank fucking Shamrock. That's some really cool pictures you might not have seen. You might have seen them, I don't know, I don't care. It's my book review, sod you. It's, his stuff from prison and his stuff training at the Lions Den. In terms of self-defense, you don't need it. If we take this as being a self-defense library, there's nothing here about self-defense, really. In terms of the history of martial arts, in terms of the history of MMA, Frank is absolutely one of the most important people in the history of the sport of MMA. I would suggest you buy the book. It's one of the few that I do suggest you buy. Again, buy it cheap. He's not going to come to your house and demand to know why you didn't buy a proper copy. Buy it second hand. I buy majority of the books that I have by second hand. Get it, read it, be inspired. I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's one of the few books that I'll be doing a review of that I do say you need it, even though it's not about self-defense as such. It's an inspirational story. I recommend you get it.